If you need wisdom, ask our generous God, and He will give it to you. Hi, I'm Rob West. When we think about financial decisions, we often turn first to budgets, spreadsheets, or expert advice, and those tools can be helpful. But for followers of Christ, wisdom begins with prayer. Today, Sharon Epps joins us to talk about inviting God into our financial lives and seeking His guidance with trust and humility. And then we'll take your calls at 800-525-7000. This is Faith and Finance Live, biblical wisdom for your financial decisions. Well, it's always a treat to have Sharon Epps back in the studio. Sharon is president of FaithFi's parent organization, Kingdom Advisors. With her leadership experience and deep commitment to faithful stewardship, she brings a valuable perspective to the financial decisions we all face. And Sharon, great to have you here.
Good to be here. Thanks, Rob.
When people think about managing money, prayer may not be the first thing that comes to mind, but as followers of Christ, why should prayer be central to the way we make even financial decisions?
Well, as believers, we are really managing God's resources, not our own. And so think for a minute. Can you imagine being asked to care for someone else's home while they were away on an extended vacation? Would you let them leave without asking for specific instructions on how they would like for you to handle their home while they're gone?
Sure.
No. And since everything we own is God's, we want to ask for His instructions. Now, prayer reminds us that we don't have to carry financial decisions alone or lean only on our own understanding. It also helps us approach money with dependence and trust and humility. And finally, it shifts us away from control and toward faithful stewardship.
Yeah, those are great points. We want to invite God into our financial lives. So let's talk about what this looks like in practical, everyday terms.
Well, it starts by bringing financial decisions to the Lord before we act. Our friend and mentor, Ron Blue, shares the most powerful question we can ask God. God, what would you have me do with your money?
Yes.
And we can pray about everything, whether it's spending, saving, giving, investing, or career decisions. I remember fervently praying about my oldest daughter's college tuition. We had not saved enough money ahead of time to pay for her education in full, and we were committed not to go into debt. And it was during prayer time that God led me to consider that He had provided for her college tuition, but that we had earmarked it for another purpose. And so once Joel and I sat down to talk about it, we were just giddy because God showed us something we had never considered.
Wow.
And prayer also just gives us the opportunity to shape our desires, our priorities, and even our motives, because over time, prayer builds the habit of seeking God first instead of reacting in the moment.
Oh, wow. I love that story. One of the challenges, Sharon, many people face is discerning how much is enough. So how can prayer help us to bring that question before the Lord and align our desires and our lifestyle with His purpose?
Our culture constantly pushes us to want more, but Scripture points us toward contentment. As Paul states in Philippians, contentment is something that we learn. It doesn't come naturally. Prayer helps us examine our hearts and see whether our desires are driven by needs, wants, fear, or trust. So remember the prayer of David in Psalms, "Search me, God, know my heart. Test me and know my anxious thoughts. See if there's any offensive way in me and lead me in the way everlasting." I want that to be my prayer.
Yes.
The Holy Spirit guides us towards a healthier understanding of what enough really is. And when we're content with God's provision, we're often freed up to be more generous.
That's a great reminder. Sharon, I'm sure there's some listening today who maybe have just faced a major financial decision or they're in the middle of one. They're uncertain about the next step. What counsel would you offer?
Well, turn to prayer before you turn to spreadsheets and ask God for wisdom. Remember James 1, if any of you lacks wisdom, let him ask God, who gives generously to all without reproach, and it will be given him. You also want to seek wise counsel from trusted believers who share your commitment to biblical stewardship. And finally, trust that even when the path isn't perfectly clear, God is faithful to guide His people as they seek Him.
So good. Folks, prayer turns financial decisions into opportunities to trust God more deeply. Sharon, what an important reminder. We're out of time, but really grateful for your wisdom today.
My pleasure. Thanks, Rob.
That's Sharon Epps, president of Kingdom Advisors. Remember, finding an advisor who shares your faith and values doesn't have to be difficult. Just go to findacka.com, answer a few questions about what you're looking for, and you'll receive a list of advisors in your area who can help you take the next step on your stewardship journey. Again, that's findacka.com. Back with your questions after this. Stick around.
The opinions offered during this program represent the personal or professional opinions of the participants, given for informational purposes only. Any information provided is not intended to replace advice from a financial, medical, legal, or other professional who understands your specific situation.
Thanks for joining us today on Faith and Finance Live. I'm Rob West. Well, we're taking your calls and questions today. That number to call is 800-525-7000. Again, that's 800-525-7000. We'd love to be able to tackle whatever you're thinking about. Here's what we understand about managing God's money. First of all, we have to acknowledge the source, the owner. That's God, not us. It all belongs to Him. What is our role? Well, that of steward. It most closely translates in the Greek and the New Testament to household manager. Think you're entrusted to care for your neighbor's house while they're away for the weekend. You walk in, you know you own nothing, but everything is entrusted to you for your care, and you do that with the master, the owner's intentions and desires at heart. Well, the same is true here. Everything we have that passes through our hands comes directly from God. It all belongs to Him. We're then tasked with faithful stewardship, management of those resources for God's glory. So we look to God's Word for those principles, including that we spend less than we earn, and we avoid debt, and we set long-term goals, and we give generously, and we have some liquidity or some margin. And when we do that, we put ourselves in a position to experience God's best. Now, we realize you're going to have questions along the way, and we want to help you answer those. And so if you call right now, we do have lines open. We'd love to be able to tackle those questions today. Again, that number, 800-525-7000. You can call right now. Before we dive into those questions in the news today, more than 6 million American children have already been signed up for Trump accounts, according to a mid-June update from Treasury. But with roughly 73 million children under 18 in the U.S., millions more may still be eligible. The new tax-deferred investing accounts are set to officially launch on the 4th of July. They're available to U.S. children under 18 who have a Social Security number. Babies born between 2025 and 2028 may also qualify for a one-time $1,000 contribution from the U.S. Treasury, though only about 1.4 million eligible children have been enrolled for that benefit so far. Families can sign up through the IRS Form 4547. You see what he did there, 4547. That's the form number, and you do that with your 2025 tax return or at trumpaccounts.gov. Contributions may also come from relatives, employers. We're even seeing philanthropists jump into this. Michael Dell was one. We've seen others get involved to help particularly low-income children take advantage of additional deposits. There's also some state programs involved. But head to that website if you want to learn more. It's there at trumpaccounts.gov. That's trumpaccounts.gov. All right, we want to dive into your questions today. The number to call to get in on the conversation, 800-525-7000. Again, that's 800-525-7000. Let's begin today in Florida. Mark, go right ahead.
Hey, I was just, I have an old car, 2013, and I have a fairly good rate on my insurance, but I have collision, and I've heard some people say that after a 10-year-old car is not worth having collision insurance.
Yeah, it's a great question. It can be appropriate, Mark, to drop collision coverage, but only if you're in a position to self-insure. Or depending upon the value of the car. So give me just a sense of that. What do you think the value is on this automobile?
They keep sending me notices saying that it's worth about $2,000, give or take $100.
Okay, got it.
And,
yeah.
I'm not I'm not wealth. I'm comfortable, but I give too much money away, and I haven't put together a 6-month plan yet, and that's what I'm hoping to do.
Yeah,
and,
great.
So anyway.
Yeah, glad to hear you're working on that emergency fund. That 6-month target is a good one. There's a couple of rules of thumb here. The first one is where you might hear people talk about dropping collision when the annual premium plus the deductible exceeds 10% of the car's value. Now, in your case, if we're talking a car that's only worth a couple of $1,000s, I mean, you're undoubtedly going to be beyond that, because when you take that total premium over 12 months plus the deductible, if that exceeds 10%, they're going to tell you that it probably doesn't make sense having collision on it. The second rule of thumb, which might be a little better test, is if my car were totaled tomorrow, could I replace it without jeopardizing my financial plan? And if the answer is yes, you might be able to self-insure and drop the collision. If the answer is no, you might want to keep the coverage. If you have obviously a car loan or a lease, you certainly want to keep it. I would imagine that's not the case here. Typically an older, lower value vehicle, again, where you've got that emergency fund in place or where you're building it, I think that can be a great option for you. But I think you could look at either of those rules of thumb and then make a call from there.
Okay. And what about Social Security? Is it going to be around? I turned 70 this year, and I haven't started taking it yet, and so I want to start taking it now. But is that something that I can count on for 2 years and then it be gone, or is it
Yeah, it's a great question. And this is obviously talked a lot about. I'm sorry. Go ahead with that, Mark. I didn't mean to cut you off.
I'm terribly frustrated with the politicians.
Yeah. I hear you. I don't think it's going away. In fact, because you're turning 70 this year, it's very unlikely you're ever going to wake up one day and find that your Social Security check has disappeared. What's true is that the program does face long-term funding challenges. Under the latest projections, if Congress does nothing, and I think that's a big if because this is too much of a hot button item for voters, they're going to deal with it. But if they did nothing, the retirement trust fund is projected to be depleted around 2032 or 33. Even then, ongoing payroll taxes would still fund about 80% of scheduled retirement benefits. So if the trust fund goes to zero, based on current payroll taxes and what's estimated to be coming in terms of ongoing revenues, they'd be able to pay out 80 cents on the dollar for what was due to each of their retirees. Now, most observers expect Congress to act before that point because Social Security is such an important program for millions of retirees who also happen to be voters. So what would they do to shore it up? Well, those reforms could include higher payroll taxes, changes to retirement ages for younger workers, so it probably wouldn't affect you. It would probably affect younger workers, adjustments to benefits. But for someone who's already 70, I would expect Social Security to remain a meaningful part of your retirement and for you to be paid out everything you would expect to be paid out over the rest of your life. At the end of the day, we plan wisely, we diversify our retirement income where possible. We trust God as our provider, but I don't see this going away, Mark. And I think you're going to see reforms driven by Congress that are going to shore this up well before 2032. So it's a great question. I appreciate you asking it. Hopefully that's helped to shed some light on both of these situations. Thanks for your call, sir. Listen, we're going to take a break. When we come back, we're going to dive into some more questions. We do have lines open. If you've got one, call 800-525-7000. Great to have you with us today on Faith and Finance Live. Hey, just a few days left in our sponsorship, our partnership of Hartford, Lebanon. That's right. April, May, and June, we have focused our energy on shining a light on their incredible work as millions have been displaced in that part of the world due to the ongoing war. And we have partnered with Heart for Lebanon to bring much-needed mattresses and hygiene items and blankets and food portions, but also the gospel to those families that are being just really ravaged by this ongoing conflict. And because of your support, more than 275 families, over 1,000 people have been reached with these critical supplies. But for the next 6 days until the end of June, we're continuing to just share this need and opportunity and invite you to join us in reaching more people there in Lebanon with emergency response. So every $90 given reaches one family with food, hygiene items, and the gospel. Just head to faithfi.com/Lebanon to jump in with us. That's faithfi.com/Lebanon. All right, let's head back to the phones. We're going to head down to Florida. Belen, thanks for calling. Go ahead.
Yes, sir. Good afternoon, Mr. Rob. My husband passed away in May, and I received a life insurance of $150,000. I was thinking of taking the $50,000 and paying off my mortgage and paying off some loans that we own. I wanted to. I know that I'm probably going to have $100,000 left. I wanted to see if it's best for me to put it like in a high-yield money market account.
Yes, it very well could be, but maybe not all of it. Let me first say how sorry I am, Belen, for your loss. I think as you lean into this, first of all, paying off that mortgage can make a lot of sense because that's going to reduce your overall expenses and hopefully give you enough liquidity to be able to generate the income you need to be able to cover your bills moving forward. Have you looked at what your budget is, and do you have enough income apart from this $150,000 to be able to cover your monthly need?
I still work. I have always worked. So after he passed away, I do plan to continue working until the age of 59 and a half.
Yeah. Okay. And when you are able to take then Social Security, would you, in the form of a survivor's benefit, would you be able to get enough to cover your expenses, or are you going to need other sources of income to supplement that?
Well, yes, I did talk to Social Security. They told me that the earliest that I can get survivor benefits is until the age of 60. I was planning, or plan was always to work until 59 and a half. I do work for a school board, which I know that I probably will have enough pension there. And I also have a 403B and a Roth with them.
Okay. Yeah. So when will you qualify for the pension?
At 59 and a half. That's the earliest that I can pull out my pension.
Got it. Okay. Yeah, so I think it might be worth, Belen, connecting with a certified Kingdom advisor just to work through some of these. I mean, I realize you'd probably like to be able to retire as soon as you can, and maybe that works, but I think it'd be good for you to know, okay, what survivor's benefit could you get at 60 versus what you could get if you wait longer. The same would be true with the pension. And then when we look at those two numbers, that would give you a good sense of what your guaranteed income would be. And then on top of that, you'd have the Roth and then the $100,000 that remains after you pay off your mortgage, which, is going to help to reduce your overall monthly expenses, which is great because that means you just need less on a monthly basis. And hopefully you could just let the Roth plus the $100,000 grow. Now, what I would probably do is go ahead and carve out of the $100,000 6 to 12 months of living expenses. So whatever your monthly expenses are, multiply that times 6 or as much as 12, depending on how conservative you want to be. And that's what goes into the high yield savings account or the money market account, because that's going to give you enough liquidity for unexpected expenses and the transition, to living on one income. And then I would take the balance of it, whatever's left after the mortgage is paid off and after you set aside the emergency fund, and that's what you'd want to invest. And I think, that's where, especially as you're continuing to work, let's try to get as much of that into the Roth each year as possible. And then the rest of it could be managed on a taxable basis. and connecting with that certified kingdom advisor to do the planning with you to help map all of this out and make sure that the income you'll have plus the assets you have will support your lifestyle into the future, well into your 80s and 90s, if that's how long the Lord has you here. That would be an important consideration, and that's what the planning will surface. And then as a second step, they could manage that money for you and pick the investments for you so that you're not taking too much risk, but you have the ability to grow that and outpace inflation so that if you need that down the road for long-term care or something unexpected, you've got that to fall back on. Does that make sense, though?
Yes, sir. Yes.
Okay. So that's kind of what I would do as a next step. I'd go to findacka.com. Findacka.com. CKA stands for Certified Kingdom Advisor. And I'd reach out to maybe 2 or 3 in your area, find the one that you think is the best fit. And what you'd be looking for is the financial planning and then ultimately the investment management. I think it's also a good idea to not make any major decisions, at least for the first 6 months, just as you kind of settle into, the new normal and get your feet under you. I'd love for you to just kind of wait. Let's think through this. Let's pray through what God has next for you. Let's get you some wise counsel. And then I think you'll be ready to make a decision like paying off that house, getting the money invested, and be ready to move forward from there. I also want to send you a gift. It's a book that was written for widows by a good friend of mine, and I think it'll be a blessing to you. It's called Wise Women Managing Money, and it was written by Miriam Neff after her husband passed, specifically for widows who now found themselves in a position of managing all that God has entrusted to them. So stay on the line. We're going to send that to you as our gift. God bless you. We appreciate your call. We'll be back with more questions after this. Stick around. Great to have you with us today on Faith and Finance Live. I'm Rob West. Well, we've got some lines open. We're taking those questions today on anything financial, 800-525-7000. Let's go to Indiana. Esther, how can I help you?
Hi, Rob. Thank you for taking my call.
Of course.
I've had a computer for about 18 years, and I've used a little CD to maintain a budget. And it works for me because I know what I'm spending, where I'm spending. And so now, but my computer broke. And I'm not very, computers nowadays, there's so much stuff going on. They're very complicated and advanced. Anyway, I'm trying to figure out how I can maintain a budget. And I did go online and I saw that you have an app. So I was wondering how that works.
Yeah. Well, I appreciate that. The FaithFi app was really designed to help people steward well what God has entrusted to them and really give you flexibility to match the system to your personality type. And, everything from, do you want to be hands-on or hands-off? Do you want to be more directional each month in terms of seeing kind of how your spending is going? Or do you want to be detailed and use more like the digital envelope system where you assign your income in the app? You don't actually move money, but you assign your income to specific categories like grocery or housing before you spend it. And then when the transaction comes in and it learns over time which transactions go in which envelopes, then you can quickly look in your digital envelope and say, when it's empty, I'm going to stop spending, or I need to move funds from another envelope to fund it. And there's a free version that you can do manually. There's a pro version where you can securely connect to your bank accounts and credit cards and, have everything automatically import. So it can be a really effective way, and it's really the only system that has 3 different approaches, so you can find the one that's the right fit for you. And here's what I'd love to do for you, Esther. 2 things. Number one is I'd like to give you 6 months of pro access to the FaithFi app, just so you can, have enough time to get in there and get it working for you and make sure it's a good fit. And so we'll do that. The second thing is I'd be happy to connect you with one of our certified Christian financial counselors, and we'll cover the cost of this, but they would work with you on a few meetings virtually to help you get everything set up, get your budget in place, get into the FaithFi app, answer your questions, get a good system that's working for you on a monthly basis, and then you're kind of off to the races at that point. And we'd be delighted to provide that to you if that would be of interest.
Yes. Thank you so much. It's greatly appreciated.
Awesome. Well, I'm happy to do it. All right. So I'm going to have you hold the line, and we're going to get your information. We'll get you connected with a CERT CFC, and we'll get you that information on getting the 6-month subscription to the FaithFi app. And if we can help further, give us a call back. Thanks for being on the program. 800-525-7000. We've got 3 lines open. So if you've got a question today, go ahead and call right now. Let's go to Georgia. Michael, go ahead.
There. Thank you for taking my call.
Yes, sir.
So I'm 73, and I'm taking full Social Security. Started that at 70. And this is really the first time I've really been able to put money aside. I've got a small 403B, $65,000. Not sure when I'm going to have to start taking from that. And I'm not sure how much to take out every year. 73, if I take out $6,000 a year, that's going to end up running out when I'm 83. But will I live that long? And I've got some money put aside in savings now that I'm teaching as well. So that's bringing in an income we could actually live on. And we're putting aside money into a savings account. So, but then what's going to happen when I get older and I'm either not able to teach or, things break down and I have to be in a home or something like that? Kind of confusing.
Yes. Yeah. Well, I certainly understand that, and there's a lot of pieces kind of working together here, and I think you're raising the right questions. I would say, the good news is you're in a fairly strong position in that you've got a paid-for home, you've got Social Security income, you're still earning income from teaching, and you have retirement savings. The goal is now to steward those assets wisely and, think about, maximizing this period while you're still working to see if you need to perhaps build up some additional reserves or retirement assets. In terms of that required minimum for somebody who's 73, the IRS's table uses the factor for a 73-year-old of, at least this year, 26.5. And so if you divide your balance, 63,000, by the Uniform Lifetime Table factor of 26.5, that would mean for the first year, when you turn 73, you would need to take about $2,300 for the year. And you're going to want to calculate that precisely. But essentially, you would take that out. Now, is the 403B from a former employer or a current employer?
Former employer. I've got another one for a current employer, but that's much smaller.
Okay. So with the former employer, the RMD is generally due by December 31st of the current year. In that first year, you get a bit of an extension on that, but essentially, you'd want to take it each year following by December 31st, and each year you would use the balance divided by the life and the Uniform Lifetime Table factor that the IRS provides, and that tells you what your required minimum is. With a current employer, if you're still working, you may qualify for the still working exception, which allows you to delay those RMDs from that employer's 403B until after you retire. So you could certainly look at that. In terms of, the $100,000 in savings, it's important to maintain liquidity, but too much cash loses purchasing power over time because of inflation. So I'd probably look at what do you need for an emergency fund, which I would say would be somewhere around 6 months. Once you hit retirement, maybe as much as 12 months worth of expenses. But anything beyond that, I'd be looking at putting that to work in a way that is not overly aggressive, but gives you the ability to earn more than just, whatever the prevailing interest rate is. So you want that adequate emergency fund, but you also want to grow it to offset the effects of inflation. In terms of, where you go with an investment strategy, you'd want to use a balanced, diversified portfolio. So a mix of high quality bonds for stability, and then, some diversified stock investments for long-term growth. Typically we would say around 73, you might have a 60-40 portfolio where 40% in stocks, 60% in bonds. That could be a starting point. You could get more aggressive or conservative from there. I think the other key is just to determine what is your monthly need in retirement. Once you start working, what is your budget going to look like? And then you're going to want to match that up to your Social Security to see if you're going to have enough coming in to cover it such that you wouldn't have to touch the 403B or the $100,000. If so, great. If not, you're going to want to look at how much you'd need to withdraw each month, and anything over 4%, 5 at the most, is probably going to deplete that over time. And so you may want to look at perhaps working a little bit longer just to build up a bit more. At the end of the day, what might be good here, Michael, is to do some retirement planning with a certified Kingdom advisor. And if you wanted to go that direction, you could go to findacka.com. I really appreciate your call. I hope that gives you a few things to think about. We appreciate it. We'll be right back. Thanks for joining us today on Faith and Finance Live. I'm Rob West. Hey, if you love the program and you've found some benefit from the advice we give, you've been encouraged by God's wisdom shared through the program each day, and you'd like to support our work, Faith and Finance is listener-supported, so it would be an incredible blessing to have you join our Faith Fi partners, especially before June the 30th, which is the end of our fiscal year. To learn more, you can just head over to faithfi.com/give. Partners support the ministry at $35 a month or more, or $400 or more per year, and as a result, we send you quarterly 4 issues of our magazine each year. We send you all of our new studies and devotionals. We send you a ministry update each quarter so you can celebrate with us all that God is doing. Again, to learn more, to jump on board before June the 30th, which would be a huge blessing to us, just go to faithfi.com/give, and you can learn all about our partner program. We're going to get to as many calls as we can in this final segment here. Let's head back to the phones. Beatrice, thanks for calling from Florida today. How can I help?
Good afternoon, Mr. Rob. Thank you for taking my call.
Yes, ma'am.
I have a question. My husband and I, we would like to change our windows and doors because they are outdated. We found a company that will do the work for us. They gave us 3 options. One of them is to pay for the cost. One of them is through our home equity. So I would like to ask if that will be a good thing to do.
Okay. So what is the total cost going to be of the project?
So we don't have the full cost yet, but for just the windows, he told us it was going to be $44,000. But plus the 3 doors, it will be more.
Okay, yeah, but it's a major project. So $44,000 plus the cost of the doors, and you really feel like this is a necessary job just based on the condition of the windows?
Yes, because they have a lot of holes. We pay more money for electricity.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, makes sense. Have you gotten additional bids, or have you just had one contractor come out and quote you?
Just one so far.
Okay. I would get at least 3, Beatrice, and I would read a lot of reviews about the companies that you bring out before you bring them out, just to make sure that they get good reviews online from people, actual customers that have worked with them. But this is a major purchase here, and I would just love for you to have at least a few people to consider before you make that kind of commitment, $50,000 plus. I mean, that is a major expense. I'm not saying it won't cost that that, that sounds high, depending on how many windows we're talking about. But I think at the very least, I would get, at least 2 other bids to go with this. Now, in terms of the options you have, whether this is the contractor or you go with somebody else and maybe you can save some money and still get a great product, what are the options you're considering in terms of how to pay for this?
So we would like to come. I would like to go with the home equity, but my husband disagrees. After that, we have the financing option.
Okay, and what does that look like, the financing option that they presented to you?
So they said that we will pay over a period of time with no interest if we pay in full at the frame window that they give us. Okay,
so if you pay over time, how long do you have to pay it without paying any interest on it? Do you know?
So they didn't tell us yet.
Okay. All right. But they did say that it would be 0 interest, but then they would give you a period of time to pay it. You just are unclear as to what that period is. Is that right?
Yes, and how much it will be every month.
Yeah, sure. And that's going to depend on the payback period. Is there a third option you're looking at, or is it really just the contractor financing and the home equity line?
The third one, they said that it would be like a credit card.
Okay. And so this would be a card they would provide or something that you would bring to the table?
They will, I believe, provide.
I see. Okay. Well, I think, given these options, obviously, if it's a no interest financing that's truly 0%, and you'd want to look at that, there's no hidden fees, and you're comfortable that you can pay it back where it's not going to place unnecessary pressure on your budget. It fits well within your budget, and then you can make sure to get it paid in full before the period runs out. That would be key. Here's what happens with a lot of these. The promotional offer charges retroactive interest if the balance isn't paid in full by the end of the promotional period. So they might say, okay, you have 36 months to pay it back, but if you owe even a penny when that 36th month is up, they charge you all the interest going back to day one. So it's really important to read the fine print. The home equity line of credit is going to be the second choice, where you get an interest rate that's often much lower than a credit card. You get flexibility in terms of when you access the funds, but you are securing this by your home. And so if something happened and you were unable to pay, you're putting your home at risk. They also have variable rates. Now, you could get a home equity loan with a fixed rate, but because of the interest rate environment we're in, we're probably talking something 7% plus. So it's not great, but it's certainly better than a credit card. So that would be the second option. But again, because you're putting your home up as collateral, you just want to be very careful that, you're borrowing an amount that you have full understanding of how you're going to pay it back and that it fits into your budget. The last choice that I wouldn't even consider would be the credit card, because the interest rate is usually going to be very high, and if it gives you a 0% promotional offer, a lot of times that's going to run out way before you get this paid back, and you're going to end up paying a whole lot of money in interest. Now, given those three options, I would explore each of those in the order I mentioned. But again, I'm going to come back to $44,000 plus the cost of the doors is a lot of money. So I just wouldn't take their word for it that this is reasonable. I would really do your due diligence to get some other people in there to see if you can do this more cost effectively with someone who's going to deliver on time a quality product. And that's going to be where you have to check to make sure they're insured, they're reputable, and you read a ton of reviews from people that have used the same company and had a good experience. Does that make sense?
Yes, everything makes sense. Thank you
Excellent.
so much.
All right, Beatrice, thank you for calling today. Lord bless you. Let's go to Chicago. Oz, how can I help you?
Yes, good afternoon.
Hi there.
Yeah, thank you for taking my call. I just have, I overheard about reverse mortgage. I am 75 years old with my wife and 6 kids. They are on their own, and we are raising a granddaughter. since she was 2 months old. She's now 6.5. And I am considering, I do want to know what it is and what are the requirements to qualify.
For a reverse mortgage specifically?
Yes.
Yes, sir. And how would you use the money? What would it be for?
Probably to fix the roof. The roof is about 12, 13 years old.
Okay. And what is the home worth based on what you know today?
Last time when I did it, which was 13, 14 years ago, it cost me about $12,000.
Okay. You're talking about the roof?
The roof, yes.
Yeah. What do you think the value of the home is? Do you have an idea?
Oh, it's about $250, $260.
Okay. And do you have a first mortgage on it, or do you own it outright?
I owned it.
Okay, got it. Yeah, so a reverse mortgage, or what's more accurately referred to as a home equity conversion mortgage, is simply a mortgage that has an optional payment. And a home equity conversion mortgage allows where the Federal Housing Administration, the FHA, is the one that guarantees it. So you can never, or your heirs or your estate can never owe more than the property is worth. And if for some reason your house lost value, which is very uncommon, but it does happen, and the mortgage, which you were not paying on, because remember the payment is optional, let's say the payment grows, or the balance of the mortgage grows over time. Let's say your house lost value. If you sell it and move out because you need to go to long-term care, or you pass away, if the balance was not able to be satisfied by the sale of the home, then the FHA steps in and pays the difference. But whatever equity remains is fully available to you if you sell it and move out. You pay off the mortgage, you keep the difference, and the same would be true for your heirs. If you pass away and you and your wife both go home to be with the Lord, and let's say your balance on your reverse mortgage was $100,000, your home's worth $300,000. After the home was sold and the mortgage was paid, the $200,000 that remains would be available for ministry or for your heirs. The beautiful part about the reverse mortgage, especially for someone in this season of life, is you're able to get a line of credit against the equity in the home, probably up to about 50% of the value of the home. So in your case, about $130,000, and you'd only tap into it if you need it, like for the replacement of the roof, but you don't ever have to make a payment. You can, but you don't have to. And so for somebody that, is living on a fixed income, doesn't have a lot of extra money, it lets you tap into the equity of your home for things like improvements, but with it where you don't have to add a monthly payment to your budget, which can be really helpful. Stay on the line. Our team will get you connected with our friends at Movement Mortgage. They specialize in this area and can be really helpful in explaining all the additional details. Thanks for your call, Oz. Faith and Finance Live is a partnership between Moody Radio and Faith Eye. Come back and join us tomorrow. We'll see you then.